You're listening to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast.
Welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. This is your host, Kiyan Sobhani. I am joined by my good friend, Diego Lorijn, and we are recording this on Boxing Day. And there's a whole slew of games on, starting in about 20 minutes in the Premier League. Yesterday, we were able to catch some NBA Christmas Day games, no La Liga, but this is also the last Churros y Tácticas Podcast of 2017. It's probably also Diego's favorite one and my least favorite one because of what happened this weekend. We're going to talk primarily about El Clasico. I don't know how much we'll dive into the other La Liga stuff, but at any rate, Diego, welcome to the show. Glad you were able to celebrate something this weekend.
No doubt. Besides Christmas, obviously.
How is Christmas going for you? Good?
Yeah, good, man. I mean, I must have gained, I reckon, about 2 kilos so far, and we still have New Year's to get through, which New Year's in Holland, by the way, for those who don't know. Right now we're with my family's side of with my wife's side of the family. Yep, and so that is celebrating Christmas in the Italian part of the Alps. And here it's just kilos of meat being stacked up on one on top of the other, thrown in the oven, and deliciously served up with potatoes. So I would say about a good 2 kilos of meat has been added on to my body weight. And now we'll be flying over to Holland to spend some time with my Dutch side of the family and celebrate New Year's there. And I reckon I'll gain another 2 kilos just on oily, greasy, sweetness, because that's what you do in Holland on New Year's. You eat what is called oliebollen. Here's a little bit of culture for you guys. Oliebollen literally translates to oil balls. And it doesn't sound good or appetizing or very attractive, but I assure you it's delicious.
What is the ball part made out of? What is it?
It's kind of like the Dutch version of churros. So actually...
So it's a pastry.
Yeah. It's a pastry that's like a dough thrown into the fryer.
Relative to what I was envisioning as an oily ball to be, that actually sounds appetizing.
Yeah. It is. I'll send you over some pictures and things so you can get an idea of what I'll be stuffing my face with over the new year.
Do you have a game plan going into these things? Like, for me, like, I not that this is unique in any way, but obviously, like, I have a lot of, great cooks in my family. So it's like almost impossible not to indulge. One of my aunts who married into the family, she's Sri Lankan. She slings out the most unbelievable dishes I've ever had in my life. Spicy, flavor, everything.
Nice.
But it's like this time of year, like you make up for like almost an entire year of just cooking on your own, indulging every now and then. And it leads up to this moment. This is like why you were born. But I always try to have some kind of game plan to prevent overeating. What is your game plan? Or do you have any rules?
I can't. I try, man, but I try. In particular, again, with my wife's family, they are such... they bon vivant, or they just like to indulge. Especially her dad, who's this massive 2-meter guy and big round guy, and loves to now he's kind of retired or semi-retired, and he's picked up cooking, so he just spends, without exaggerating, probably weeks cooking and leading up to the Christmas event. So
good for him.
it's just impossible to come here with a game plan that is any other than just stuffing your face with as much as you can. Because again, and you might know this, I mean, they are Latin as well, and in Latin culture, if you're not stuffing your face, it means that you don't like it. So you're actually insulting, whoever it is that.
That is a fantastic way to excuse yourself.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to insult anyone, so I just keep on eating, keep on trucking. That's the game plan. It's just loosen up the belt and just keep going. Yeah. But I've learned over the years to kind of pace myself, because the goodness starts already, in the early afternoon with some aperitivo, some appetizers, some tapas, and then you need to pace yourself. Otherwise, you might make the rookie mistake and eat too much already too quickly, and then you're in trouble. So I guess the game plan is just to pace yourself.
What was your reaction after the final whistle on Saturday morning?
Here we go. You ready? So we're getting into the meat of things.
Yeah, let's go. Let's just get into it. I mean, there's no need to role play. Let's just jump into it.
Why drag this out any longer? You already tried to drag it out. I tried to do this pod with you yesterday, and
there was no chance.
So let's just rip the bandage off the wound, huh? Let's get right into it. All right, here we go. I was incredibly, incredibly happy, and at the same time, just stunned at how, what a difference 45 minutes makes. Leading up to the match, and obviously we did our pre-match on D-Spot the day before, I kind of, I was very aware that Madrid was in dire need for this win, and I was also aware of the fact that since a couple of, in particular since the Sevilla match, it looked like Sevilla or Madrid had been picking up their form, and you guys went on to win the Mundialito, kind of unconvincingly or with not the most attractive football, but nonetheless you won the trophy. Ronaldo scored, so I was thinking, okay, a draw would be good. I mean, if we can keep the distance at 11 points, then that's fantastic. So I if you remember, I called it 2-2. And when I saw those first 45 minutes, boy, I was happy that it was still 0-0 on the scoreboard, because to my feeling, I thought Madrid could have been up, if not one, potentially even 2 goals to 0. You had Ronaldo with the chance that Ter Stegen miraculously kept out, or miraculously maybe not, because Ter Stegen is, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in form right now. But and then you had Benzema hitting the post. So those were all honest chances that could have turned the tie, if you will. I mean, those could have gone on the scoreboard easily, and we could have been looking at a different result today. But they didn't go in. Madrid still, as I was trying to say, they played those first 45 minutes with the intensity that I expected. They were the better team, in my opinion. I mean, this maybe, again, I'm looking this from Coulé's eyes, but I was suffering. Those first 45 minutes were sheer and utter anxiety for me. And I was just so happy when the whistle was called and it was still 0-0. Then the second half happened, and it was, I don't know what happened in the dressing room, in the Real Madrid dressing room at halftime, because when they hit the pitch, it was I don't know. They came out with a different sort of attitude. Kovacic went from shadowing Busi to then covering Messi in the most obsessive manners that I'd ever seen. And so much so that, of course, that benefited us hugely for that 1-0. I mean, that's been obviously overanalyzed at this point, I'm sure, by you guys over at Managing Madrid as well. But that it made all the difference. And but also Barca looked more comfortable. They were kind of like they went from knowing how to suffer in those first 45 minutes to just looking very comfortable on the ball. So those next 45 minutes were a joy to watch. And 3 goals went in, 14 points. And who would have thought that 4 months ago when we, lost on 5-1 aggregate in the Supercopa, when everything looked gleam and dark and pessimistic and dramatic, with a Barca side that lost Neymar, that lost their identity, that couldn't get any, players to come to join Barca, with the board of directors that were shambles, and though that is still the case, I still, the board of directors did so many things wrong, in my opinion. That is, I don't take anything away from the criticisms that I personally had towards the board, but you have to just tip your hat off at this point to Valverde and also to Roberto Fernandez for some of the players he brought in, the likes of, Ter Stegen was Zubizarreta. If I'm not mistaken, Zubizarreta brought Ter Stegen in, and also Vermaelen, in fact, was from Zubizarreta. But
the board is kind of stumbled into some luck here and bought themselves time to buy some respect, because
they
lucked into the Valverde lottery, who has been an amazing payoff. And then they signed Dembele, so all of a sudden they have him
a non-factor, obviously.
But the fact that they have him coming on, so if he pans out and he helps Barcelona sustain this, they're going to look even better. And they'll be like, oh, look, we use this money to distribute it among Dembele and Semedo, blah, blah, blah. The Messi contract renewal saved a lot of face for them.
Yeah.
You almost wonder, now, do fans forget about it?
Yeah. And that's my point, is that I don't necessarily want fans to forget about it, because there's still a lot that this board should rightfully be criticized for. But when it comes to the way the team is playing, the results, we cannot argue with that. And that was my point. Sorry. So you have Vermaelen and Ter Stegen, who were, if I'm not mistaken, both Zubizarreta buys, but Paulinho, the unsung hero. I talk about it almost every week when I talk to you about the guy. I feel just so bad for the criticism that he received. We all took for granted, or we all took for certain, that he was going to be un fracaso, an absolute disaster. And he is, fitting in like he's meant to be playing for Barca since years. It's not the exact same style that we expect or want to, but the guy's come in with such humility. He is obsessed with Busquets. He tries to shadow or mimic Busquets as much as he can. He obviously plays in a different position, but he knows he has his reference, which is Busquets, and who better player than Busi to try to mimic as much as he can. And he's extremely grateful for the chance to be given the chance to be playing in this team. And I, for one, I was a big critic of his arrival, and I am extremely happy to be eating humble pie and to offer my sincere apology to a guy who just seems like actually also a really good dude, if I'm honest.
It's like, do you even call it humble pie? It's like the same pie everyone in the world was eating. Like nobody, and rightfully, thought that he was going to make a difference, because we went down the list of players they could have theoretically signed in the summertime, and a lot of them had like really reasonable buyout clauses, like Roque Mesa, for example.
Right, exactly.
Were like, he's so much cheaper and he's a proven La Liga player. Why not just roll with him, pay the buyout clause? I think I remember making a list, and all of them were attainable.
You had Seri from Nice. You had
I think Trigueros was another one who had relatively low buyout clause. So that worked out. That was another thing that they lucked into. I don't even think they expected this. You talked about what happened at halftime, and we tried to piece it together as best we could. We looked at the tactical difference. We looked at the mental difference. People talk about Real Madrid's first half, and you talked about it. I think a lot of people exaggerated how good it was. It wasn't otherworldly or anything. It's just in contrast to what the Gong show in the second half. It just looked really good. But I will say that it still was good, even though it was exaggerated. Barca clearly looked uncomfortable. They didn't like having to deal with Real Madrid pressing them that high, and they weren't be able to keep possession. Messi looked frustrated. Iniesta didn't get much time on the ball.
No.
And all of those things were setting the tone, like in Real Madrid's favor. Like, so they were the better team. Like, I don't think they were unbelievable, but they were good and they were the better team.
I thought so too. Yeah.
It is crazy to me that so many places will chalk up the second half due to fatigue, but it's not inconceivable to say Real Madrid were tired, and that's why. Because you look at the difference. In the second half, it was clearly a schematic decision. It was by design to say, okay, we're going to step back a bit. We're not going to press high. We can't afford expending so much energy for 90 minutes. And there's a reason why. That was
interesting though.
Yeah.
That was it. Tell me about that, because that was surprising, because the first half, for me, that was the success, or the difference between the two, was the constant pressing. And I understand that, from a fitness standpoint, it's almost impossible to keep up. But I don't know. I mean, for me, that was kind of the difference maker, because you allowed Barca to then have the ball, get comfortable, get the possession back. Because in the first, 30, 35 minutes of the first half, I didn't even remember us having the ball at all. I would like to see the possession statistics in those first 30 minutes. I don't know if you know them, but I don't know. I don't remember us really having the ball for much time to at all in those 30 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, there was that we know that pressing as a team expends a lot of energy.
Of course.
It's really hard to do, and for 90 minutes. So you also pick and choose. Like we've seen managers say, okay, we're going to press to start the game to set the tone, and then we're going to take a break. We're going to try to close the passing lanes after that, and then we'll re-implement it during the game. My only guess is that they decided to take a break to start the second half, and then by the time they wanted to play high again, it was too late. This tone was set. They were making mistakes, like really easy passes they just weren't completing. They were giving the ball away.
Completely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah.
But I mean, you kind of have to flip it, because if you want to continue, the second half the way you ended the first half, you had a little bit of a break at halftime anyway. You want to set the tone. So it was a shocking decision to me. The first
why
goal,
the switch on from Kovacic from being on Busi to then jumping on Messi? How do you explain that?
The first goal conceded is in many ways just a mystery that, like, we try to turn psychologists into the goal, because we were trying to think about, first of all, there were a lot. Kovacic all of a sudden was the main culprit, which I felt was really unfair to him, because you look at that play and where it starts. Casemiro was so high up the pitch.
Yeah.
He's nowhere to be found. And usually when Casemiro bombs forward like that, we have proper coverage for him. So Modric and Kroos will drop back. And in this case, we had Kovacic too, so it was inexcusable there would be no coverage for him.
Can we just, before you, and I want you to pick up right here where you're leaving off, but can we jump back 1 second and just give props and maximum credit to Busquets for making Toni Kroos look like a playground schoolyard kid, and just having his way with him, and then sending off Rakitic for that run through the midfield.
I have
that was all Busi, man. That was all Busi. You know what I'm talking about, right, Kiyan?
I have. I'm not sure of the specific play, or if this was the build-up to the first goal.
Yeah, of course, the first goal, like Busi sending off Rakitic down the middle, but it was all Busi. I mean, Busi collects the ball. I think it's how does he end up with it? Is it Sergi Roberto that passes the ball to Busi and then continues his run? But anyway, Busi gets swarmed by Toni Kroos, and with kind of he then flicks the ball to one side, then flicks it to the other.
Yeah, he just gets out of it. Okay, yeah.
He just gets him out of the way. It making him look like another level kind of quality.
I mean,
it was just, for me, it was amazing. That for me was all Busquets. Anyway, then we're picking up where you left off. Sorry, continue.
Well, I mean, that ties in, because where was Kroos also? Like, so
Kroos was looking for the ball. He didn't know idea where.
Neither Kroos or Modric were there to cover for Casemiro. And then, Kovacic is left with, he's torn in between two worlds.
Yeah.
On one hand, he's supposed to be the guy to lock down Messi. So he decides to cut off the passing lane to Messi. And probably by the time he realizes the ball's not going to go there, Rakitic is basically gone, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the play and who's jogging back. Marcelo's jogging back.
Marcelo.
Carvajal
got so
on
much
the other
shit
side.
for that. Yeah.
Everybody's caught out of position, which made no... Okay, so to bring it back to the top, when you decide in the second half to hedge off and to stop pressing, how all of a sudden are you caught up the field? Because you're trying to play defensive all of a sudden or just cut off the passing lanes, and then this happens, and everybody's caught, no one's covering for each other. It's inexplicable. Like, a lot of heat has come at Zidane, and a lot of it is fair heat. In that moment of chaos, those are individual decisions that have to be made, judgment calls by players. And this has been something the team has been really good at in the past, covering for Casemiro's runs, covering for each other. They haven't been great at it this season. And then Kovacic, to me, probably has to make a judgment call to just, I don't care how, but just to take Rakitic's legs out and take the tactical foul, take a yellow card for this game. He doesn't do that. And who was it that Rakitic played it to the right? Was it Sergi Roberto?
Yeah.
That pass from Roberto to Luis Suarez was so good. And it was foreshadowed against Depor when he played an unbelievable one-time pass to Suarez, which went almost unnoticed because it was Iniesta's magic to build up to that. That was the goal that was replayed, right? So many times because it was like 1,800 passes. So that whole sequence was, to me, in so many ways inexcusable and so preventable. And then that was what set the tone.
It was very similar in a way, the way that first goal happened to the way that the 3-2 happened last year, where Marcelo probably should have taken out, Sergi Roberto and taken a yellow card, and in this case, Kovacic, putting his legs into Rakitic instead of staying with Messi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that was the Marcelo play where Marcelo could have just take a red if you have to, even doesn't matter. Exactly.
Yeah. But how much blame do you also put on Marcelo for? I mean, you said jogging back. I think even trotting back would be saying too much. It looked like he was kind of walking back. Allowing Sergi Roberto to just go down the flank and be open and to put in an unselfish pass to Suarez.
I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't know what else to add to it other than that it was just the decision making from the whole team was shocking. And then all of a sudden, because Kovacic is in the middle of it all, he's the one that gets blamed for it all. But you look around him and he has no help. He has to make these decisions. He made the wrong decision, but still, it's you pin that on him, and it was a whole team breakdown.
I kind of feel like maybe at halftime, Zizou, took him to the side and said, "Listen, whatever you do, I do not want you to let Messi out of your sights." I could have imagined him being drilled down by Zizou in the way that at the moment he's like, "Oh my God, here's Messi. No, I gotta stay with Messi. That's what my boss told me to do. I gotta do it."
And that's fine. I mean, we saw Machin do it really pretty efficiently with Pablo Maffeo in the Girona game, and it worked for a lot of the game.
Exactly. That's what I mentioned yesterday. Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Lionel Messi, I don't know if you heard it, my alarm just went off. I'm supposed to be waking up right now, which is, I'm really proud of myself. The feeling of being up already when your alarm goes off and you already got your day started. Messi, quietly, I saw a statistic that the percentage of the game where he was walking instead of jogging, not even just running or jogging.
Yeah.
He was walking for so much of the game. He had 9 key passes. 9. That is a statistic that's so hard to get to for elite players, even over the course of 2 games sometimes.
Oh, you're right. And it's so funny that you point this out because I saw the exact same stat as you. And a little something that One of the footballing greats, may he rest in peace, Johan Cruyff once said that has always stuck with me whenever Messi gets criticized for not running enough is he once said, the most intelligent football players, they don't run, they walk, and they know when to run. So they walk for most of the match and know exactly when to run. That's Messi for you. That's Messi. He gets criticized so often in games, especially in the past where maybe Barca wasn't having their winning ways, or with Argentina, I can imagine as well. But, for just walking on the field, he doesn't run. Why doesn't he run more? People are obsessed with players just running for 90 minutes. But as we saw, and with Madrid as well, you cannot run for 90 minutes. It's impossible. It's knowing when to run. And I guess, Messi is just showing all of us over and over again just how of an intelligent player he is by picking and choosing his runs and his passes. And to quote another footballing legend, not yet passed away, thank God. May he live for many more years for that matter. But Xavi Hernandez, when he left, and you might remember this, when he left Barca, I remember reading an interview where they asked him about Messi. They said, well, what is going to become of Messi now that you're leaving, Iniesta getting older? And he said, don't you worry about Messi, because what Messi is going to evolve into is me. He's going to become, he will be the next Xavi or the next, Andres Iniesta. So, and I think that's what we're seeing as well. Just the absolute, pinpoint passing that he's capable of doing is miraculous, man. It's just adding another level to his playing skill that especially culés, we just love to see, man. It's a joy, an absolute pleasure.
That philosophy, by the way, of knowing when to run. It's not about
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a good life lesson. Like in life in general, just work smarter,
right.
Not harder.
You're right. You're right. In fact, yeah.
Where are we with this? Messi, 9 key passes, quietly having fantastic game. The man marking thing. Mm-hmm. I said this on the Manage Madrid podcast before the game, and I thought I didn't understand why there needed to be an obsession about man marking him. Like, I understand he is who he is, and you want to do anything you can to stop him, especially in this Barca team without Neymar. I think we've seen examples of closing him down relatively well in the past just by swarming him. And we did see that a bit in the first half. Like, he was man-marked. Mm-hmm. But he was also, like, while you can have one person like Kovacic shifting their attention to him, but you have, like, 3 or 4 players swarming him when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
And I think if you have that kind of mind frame, it's much more sustainable than saying, look, don't let this player out of your sight. Because the other thing is, Messi drags people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the first half, when he saw that he was being man-marked, he just goes to the right flank, and then he can drag Kovacic out with him. And then all of a sudden
Did you see, and then put in passes like he did to Paulinho and. Yeah. You remember that one? That was basically our only shot on goal, our only attempt, but it almost ended up in a goal. It was thanks to exactly what you're describing now. Messi taking it out on the right flank, attracting players to him, and then allowing Paulinho to have more space to go in deep for a run. And again, that pinpoint pass, man, a quarter-like pass into the box that almost allowed us to get on the score sheet. But yeah, sorry. Continue.
No. I mean, it ties in. You mentioned Kroos briefly with the whole Busquets thing. Kroos himself, to me, through no fault of his own, has been an issue for us, and no one's talking about it. Forget that he has this thing where he jogs back. This, by the way, this has been something for years now. It's like not unique to this season. He jogs back on like almost every defensive sequence. I've never seen him sprint back. And that's fine. That could be a schematic thing. Sorry for the phone call. That could be a schematic thing. And where, whether it's energy conservation or acting as an outlet to get the ball back in transition. But we've conceded goals and we've conceded chances because of that reason. The last few games, there's been an issue, I think, that is even completely unrelated to that, is that when you play a 4-4-2 with Ronaldo and Benzema up top, your counterattack becomes so lethargic and toothless and defanged, because Kroos is often your guy who is expected to beat players on the flank, high up the pitch, like on the left side. Like you saw him, you saw this in the Club World Cup, which whatever, we take nothing away from that. You saw it against Barca, where there was chances to exploit Barcelona in space, and it was Kroos, like on the left, he had to like beat a player or show some kind of creativity or flair, and it's just not his game. He doesn't play that high up the pitch. He's not like Ronaldo or Bale or Asensio or Isco who can do that. And this kind of goes back to the scheme where, why is Kroos playing that position? Why isn't it someone like who can play that? You know what I mean?
AKA Isco.
Yeah, I mean, we were surprised. We kind of knew Barcelona would play a 4-4-2 with like essentially 4 central midfielders. We didn't expect Real Madrid to do the exact same thing. That's essentially what they did with Kovacic. And, you know, to be fair, it worked in the first half, and I had no issues with it. And I saw the lineup, and I was like, okay, this works. I think Kovacic has played well in like every Clasico he's played. He's played really well, and I had no issues with it. But
it really did not even with, because I understand what you're saying, and I completely agree. In fact, when I saw Kovacic in the starting 11, it immediately kind of worried me, because it was, for me, a sign of what was going to happen, in which we saw those first 45 minutes. But at the same time, I was perplexed as to why would you decide to keep your best player this season so far out on the bench, knowing all the issues that he had last year. And I'm talking, of course, about Isco. With all the issues he had last year for not feeling important enough, almost leaving. I mean, he wanted to leave Real Madrid, and they signed him on. They convinced him to stay. They said, you're going to be one of our most important guys, etc. They put the buyout clause to 700 million to assure that nobody could come in and sweep him away. And then for the most important match of your season so far, a title decider, even if you will, you decide to put this player, your best player so far, on the bench. I mean, that for him has got to be the biggest kick in the nuts. I don't want to say ever, but just a huge kick in the nuts, put it that way. Because, you know, he must be thinking, what else do I have to do? What else do I have to do? I'm committing to this team. I'm showing this team that my quality, how important I am. And for this match, you're deciding that it's be better not to play me. I would be perplexed if I was him. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I said it. Alex Kirkland of Real Madrid TV and I did a podcast before the game too, and we were talking about. Well, we weren't talking about Kovacic because we didn't see that coming. We were talking about Bale, and I don't know how he felt. I think, you know, Bale is the better player. I think, and if it were me, like I would have started Bale, because he's in form even though he's barely played. He has like some of the better stats on the team even though he's barely played. He's been really good the last 3 games he came off the bench. And but my concern wasn't whether that was the right call or not. My concern was that sends a really weird message to Isco for Bale to just come in like as if nothing happened. You know, this whole time he was gone. So I was like, for that reason, I was like, Isco will probably start. And but I was really surprised. Everybody was surprised that it was Kovacic. I think.
Sure.
My issue with it, Diego, is that it's very reactionary to the opponent. Look, I get that Messi is arguably the best player of all time. I get that you need to have some sort of plan to stop him. My issue with it is that we're not Girona. And while I like unconventional methods and doing things that, you know, are unexpected to the opposing coach to keep them guessing and just to throw something new at them, I don't like the idea that Real Madrid has to react in that way, given that who they are as a team. As a club. You
think it's a small club mentality?
I really do. That's how I perceive it. I think that the roster on paper is the best in the world, from top to bottom. It's the type of team that has won. It's a team that's won back-to-back titles in Europe, double, it's a team that should just put its foot down and say, we're at home, we are the best. You do whatever you want to stop us. We're going to play our game. Yeah. And to me, that involves the best players on the pitch, and Gareth Bale is one of them. And, you know, again, it's almost hypocritical for me to talk like that, because I didn't mind the starting lineup, and the first half was good, but it was very reactionary to the opponent, which is what bothers me.
I understand, and no, I completely would. You know, I understand that those sentiments coming from a Madridista. And, you know, had it been the other way around, culés would have been on Valverde's case for certain decisions. You know, right now, you know, whatever it would have been, you know, I don't know whether it would be criticizing the 4-4-2 as opposed to a 4-3-3, putting Sergi Roberto at right back instead of, you know, on top with or in the midfield, or on top with the front three potentially. You know, in the end, when your team loses, you try to look for somebody to blame. And because, like I said, had Benzema's header gone in, had Ronaldo not been offside by however much it was in those first 2 minutes on that offside goal, we could have been talking a whole different result right now. And that's, you know, football is funny like that. It's the little details in the end that determine the outcome, right? Yeah. And
well, I mean, like every Clasico is like that. I mean,
yeah, of course.
You know, Ronaldo could have, you know, Lucas, who I did a podcast with after the game, said the Ronaldo chance was more difficult than it looked. I actually thought Ronaldo should have just scored that. The one in the first half where it was cut back and he was wide open in the box and he miskicked it. It didn't even connect.
Yeah,
and, you know, those are the chances that maybe 9 times out of 10 they probably go in. And but I mean, you know, we've won Clásicos convincingly, like with emphatic score lines where, you know, Messi has missed a sitter to make it 1-0, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, exactly. So how I would really love to hear, you know, especially you being the football analyst that you are, and with such a good eye for detail and capable of also putting aside your shirt and recognizing greatness, even if it is in the form of Blaugrana. I would love to hear your thoughts and prediction in terms of the future development of, I think, a Barca legend in the making, that is Sergi Roberto.
Exemplifies
Barca and Spain legend, because I would not understand him not being called up to the national team at this point.
Exemplifies what Barcelona have stood for in the last decade. Like,
right? Yes.
I don't
I agree.
I think the Barcelona, their brand and the Mexican club, I think it's overrated and all that. And whatever, it's a touchy subject for a lot of people, and that's fine. But Sergi Roberto in this, you know, for culés, if this was a time of you know, losing their identity or their brand or religion or whatever, Sergi Roberto is like kind of the last stand almost. Like he's the one who. It's weird to me because I look at him and he's not like a 10 in anything. Like, he's not like a superstar. He's not like he doesn't.
New way.
He's very good at like.
He's a superstar boy. Once he's going to take over Rakitic's goal and slot into that midfield, I have no worries about our future. I put all my faith into this kid. He's got it all. I mean, for me, it's just a matter of patience, and I'm so grateful that Luis Enrique convinced him to stay, and Valverde to give him minutes one way or the other, because I see that it might be tough to take out a heavyweight that is Ivan Rakitic right now and say, look, you got to sit on the bench because I have to give this kid, or I favor this kid over in this position, because, I mean, you as well said that you don't think that Ivan Rakitic's season has been as bad as a lot of culés think it has been. But, you know, to put him in the right back position, which is not his natural position, and him able to outshine a top athlete, the likes of Nelson Semedo, already speaks volumes for me. And just the field vision, his also athletic ability, but the skill level that he shows whenever he's given the confidence and the minutes to show it. It's it's almost mind-boggling that he's not perhaps not given more minutes in the midfield. I mean, and I don't want to take digs at Ivan Rakitic, because I think he's good. I think he's great, and I also on a personal level, I think he's a great dude. So I don't want to sit here and chastise him, because I just don't like to do. I just don't like it. But he's a top quality player, man. Since the B team, he's been showing it, and I don't know. For me, it's a superstar in the making. He really is.
It will be interesting to see where his position eventually, solidifies at. Because to me, he's still lost positionally. It's kind of like, we were looking at Alaba like a couple years ago, and we were like, okay, he can play as a defensive midfielder, he can play as a left back, he can play like so many different places. And now he's just kind of cooled off a bit. I don't know if I know if I rate him as high as you do, Sergi Roberto. But he's young. He's really good at what he does, and probably underrated. He is underrated, I think. But
I think so. But I think that's okay. I think it's okay. I think for now, it's probably a good thing, and it's probably a good thing that he's still under the radar.
Yeah,
but
less pressure.
It's just little things he does during the game that kind of they get me really excited. And right now, it's not really coming to me exact examples, but it just reminds me of Xavi and Iniesta when they were brought up through the ranks, and with Van Gaal, and they just had to be very patient. And people, I feel nowadays, that patience is gone, and they just want instant results. Superstar, everybody has to be known and marketed and branded, but it doesn't work like that, And I really wish, and we saw it over the summer as well, the massive fuga, the escape of Masia players to foreign teams, because they're just so impatient nowadays. They just want to be instant superstars, instant payment, instant gratification. Whereas I think Sergi Roberto is an example, and will be an example, of patience, nurturing homegrown talent, and I think it's going to pay off. I think it really will pay off in his case. I'm very hopeful, at least, as you can tell. Just to backtrack real quick in the whole Messi Club and that being overrated, something that I had, a topic I had pending with you and some of your fellow Managing Madrid guys. I would love to maybe get on the pod once with them as well. I mean, I understand kind of where you guys are coming from in terms of, Barca, not necessarily in Barca, but maybe culés trying to milk that slogan for all it's worth, right? Messi Club, etc. For me, though, however, being a culé since birth and having been, grown up with this club and learning the history from its origin, from the beginning, and all this knowledge and culture having been passed down to me from my grandfather, Messi Club is not a marketing slogan for me, but it's something that stands for so much. And I don't know if you feel that more when you are feel, culturally connected through family, through blood, or whatever it is, to this club. But it's something that I hold very dear, and I guess maybe now during political times, it's something that we like to refer back to and also take comfort in, even though, again, and I go back to the board of directors currently, with me strongly disagreeing with a lot of the decision making of theirs, but I don't think that the Barca as a club and again, for me, it stands for what it stands for, which is more than a club, should have to suffer from the inevitable, which is all the marketing that surrounds every football club, for that matter, in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I there's nothing wrong with it, and it's also, to me, it's just not a huge deal. I think it's the holier or that than thou attitude is what irks a lot of people. Look, there's nothing wrong with the brand. Every business in the world has a branding. Like it's branding. It's
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the message. I think it's just like...
And I get why it irks people, and I can get why it can come across as smug. You know, the other was a couple of weeks ago. I was interviewed by the guys from Copa 90. They wanted to do something on Barça, and they were asking me the questions. You know, why is Barça, or why is it Messi un club, or what does it mean to you? And you start talking, and it's hard not to get caught up in everything, you know, and the emotional side of things, and in the memories, and you start talking, and you almost feel, you kind of hope that it doesn't come across as smug, because what I don't want is to say my club is better than yours because we're Messi un club, etc., etc. But so I get why it would irk people the wrong way. You know, I mean, I guess it comes with the territory. You know, you can never. That's life. Not everybody will like you, you know, so you can't always satisfy everybody, I guess. But maybe it's also good that way, because it's that kind of, you know, some people liking it, some people despising it, what makes matches like El Clasico or Barça Chelsea or, you know, whatever it is, Madrid, PSG, this upcoming match, what makes it interesting. You know, if football lost that emotional aspect, and I'll give you a great example. Holland, Germany, you know, you, Kiyan, know that I'm half Dutch. One of the all-time great Clásicos in European football, world football, when it comes to national sides, is Holland, Germany. That has totally lost its passion. That has totally lost its rivalry. It's no longer what it used to be when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, where it was sheer hatred. You know, we were sheer and utter hatred towards each other, and it was great. I loved it. You know, I miss that, and I would never want un Clásico, for example, to get watered down to that level, or just to not only watered down, but to lose its origins and rivalry, because that for me is what just makes football great. What makes every sport's great. You know what I mean?
Not to dwell on the Sergi Roberto subject more than we need to.
Am I going off a tangent? Did I lose you? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't lose me. I'm just trying to keep us focused here. Not to dwell too much on the Sergi Roberto subject, but I wanted to also just add, because you mentioned, you know, it kind of reminds you of Xavi and Iniesta and coming up through the ranks. Mm-hmm. I remember those days. You know, I'm young enough to remember what it was like, even as a Madridista, growing up when Xavi and Iniesta were very first on the scene, like before Pep came, when they were giving pastillos to Real Madrid.
Yep.
They had some bad days. They stuck with it. Continuity came, and we all know what Xavi and Iniesta become. At that moment in time, even at that time, we knew how great Xavi and Iniesta were. I don't feel that way about Sergio Roberto yet.
Okay, all right.
But I think in many ways, Barca fans will cling to him because he represents what they miss.
Possibly. Yeah.
But he's still very good, and I would say I hope that they just ignore him. They did with Iago eventually and sell him.
Yeah. Well, that might be. It might just be us holding on to memories and clinging on to homegrown talent.
No, but I mean, he's very good. It would be insane if they didn't develop him and continue.
Because I remember, you know, those early days of Xavi, Iniesta. In the late Van Gaal, early, you know, Serra Ferrer, early Rijkaard days, where they were almost leaving the club. They were about to leave. You know, you had, especially when Rijkaard came in, you had Ronaldinho and Deco in those positions, and they had already been at the club for quite some time. You know what I mean? And they were, if not with their bags packed, at least mentally. And Xavi even has admitted this on several occasions, already mentally checked out, thinking, you know what, this is it. I'm, you know, if I'm not going to get given a chance at this point, I might as well try my luck somewhere else. So, yeah, we'll see. I think he's a special kid, and it's true that I have a lot of hopes. My hopes is set on him.
Let's take a couple questions and then we'll wrap it up. Unfortunately, they're both Madridista questions, so you're going to have to bear with us, but you'd probably be interested at least in talking about them.
Yeah.
The first question is from Kastub Yabas, and I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that. But Kastub on Twitter says, how much replenishment does our squad for the forward line majorly need this summer? Ronaldo would be 34, Benzema 31, and Bale 29 injury prone. And Harry Kane is the highest goal scorer this season. So I don't think anything will happen in the wintertime. But it is interesting. I don't think...
That's naive, Kiyan. Are you serious? You don't... After this, did you see the newspapers? They're screaming for un fichaje.
That's fine. They're not going to get it.
Interesting.
The only person who I think will sign is Kepa.
Okay.
I don't think he'll sign a striker. Like, to me, the solution is still not even signing a striker. It's to reshuffle it so that Ronaldo gets pushed up and Benzema comes off the bench as your second striker. But I think it's clear that they can't continue with Benzema as the starter. They just can't.
Yeah.
He's dropped off far too much.
Yeah.
The team looks toothless offensively, especially when Ronaldo isn't scoring. And he doesn't have to be sold, but he has to take a back seat. So, if he goes into next season and he's still here, but he's, your second striker, it's beautiful. He's a really good second striker. But, and also, look, Ronaldo's going to be 34. This is we talk about his decline every year. I think we can all say the eye test has shown us that he's not who he was, right? Like, it's last season.
Boom! It's done. It's said. Kiyan has said it. What he tried to refuse to say for all this time.
No, but this is the thing. This is the thing. I'm neither right or wrong.
You're finally caving in, Kiyan.
I'm neither right or wrong about this because we know that Ronaldo can actually turn this around and score like a crazy amount of goals, and Real Madrid wins trophy at the end of the year, and he's capable of that. And this year, even though he hasn't been scoring, he's actually looked really good in other facets of the game. He's been a really good passer. He's dropped deep. He's been unlucky not to score a lot of his chances. And, and that's the reality. But the other reality is that his
abdominals are still in check. Yeah. And his abdominals are still in check, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's he's an athletic freak and takes care of himself. And, if anyone can do it at this age, it's him. No one else can do it the way he can. So, but these are real questions. But I just don't think anything will happen until the summertime. And I think Benzema can't be your starting striker. I think the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can fix some of the problems. Yeah. One more question. April Blair on Facebook says, Kiyan, but also Diego, obviously. What is your best front six for Madrid if you had to pick it from the central defensive midfielder to the center forward? Do you have any opinion on this?
Listen, it would include Isco and Asensio, I'll tell you that. So it would probably be what you saw out on the field over the weekend, but just swapping Benzi for Asensio, I would say, and putting Isco in there too. For Kovacic, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, that's that. You got to work those two guys in some sort of way. Yeah.
Lucas and I talked about this briefly. I think we were on the same page as each other, but to me, there are two players in the starting lineup that I think we should realize that we can actually perform better without them, or to realize that they're not necessary. They're great squad players. Fantastic.
Isco and Asensio?
No.
Oh.
Casemiro and Benzema.
Oh, okay.
We've seen in big games in the past there hasn't been any drop off defensively with Casemiro sitting. We saw it in last year's Clasico. Kovacic was unbelievable. So I think there's two options you can go. You can go Kovacic, Kroos, and Modric, and then Bale, Ronaldo, and Isco.
And is that, sorry, just to interrupt, is that because, I'm kind of surprised with Casemiro because he's such a physical force, but is that because he's a liability because of his physical, or because of his dedication to playing the game a little bit too physical at times? You know, he's always rozando la roja. He's always caressing the red cards.
As far as I know, he still hasn't actually ever gotten a red card for Real Madrid, which is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It's like some kind of spell. But I think with Casemiro, it's not that he's bad. He's been really, really good. And I've written like columns about like how good he's been. And
great as well,
I think the issue is that you lose some technicality in midfield, and you lose some control, and your press resistancy gets lowered. So teams, this is something that teams, you know, opposing coaches have done in the last couple of years, and they've managed to get points off Real Madrid, is you hound him. He gets the ball, you swarm him, and you hedge off like everybody else. But you make it a point to make him uncomfortable, and he can give away possession. And to be fair, Real Madrid this season, every single elite player has been making shocking giveaways in the third. Modric, Kroos, Marcelo, Carvajal. These are players that are not expected to give the ball. So it's not just Casemiro. Casemiro just has a larger sample size of it. Kovacic is really intelligent defensively, and I'm not going to let that, you know, what happened at the Clasico in the second half cloud my judgment on that. And what Kovacic brings that Casemiro can't is ball carrying ability, the ability to carve through and bind a counterattack together and get the ball forward really quickly. And if there's no outlet to just get it up there himself, he can do that. So to me, that's true. I think so. That's one option. If you didn't want to play Kroos, Kovacic, and Modric together, that's fine. The other thing you could do is, if you really wanted to pack the midfield, is you could do a double pivot of Kovacic and or Kroos or Modric, or if you know, basically in the one of my favorite performances that, you know, I bring up often, which I wish we had more sample size to actually evaluate it, and we've only seen it one game ever, was in the Calderon last season. It was the game that Real Madrid finally played really good. And it was like, oh my God, Real Madrid have been terrible this season. They're just getting results. And then they went into the Calderon and they completely just ate Atletico 3-0. Ronaldo hat-trick. They played Kovacic and Modric together in a double pivot. And then they put Lucas Vazquez on the right wing, Bale on the left wing, and Isco in the middle, and Ronaldo up top by himself. So you had a packed midfielder with really intelligent off-the-ball players defensively, and you had three players, Vazquez, Isco, and Bale, who can get the ball up really quick on the counterattack and feed Ronaldo. And if you wanted to make it more sexy, just replace Lucas Vazquez with Asensio. So then you'd have Kovacic, Modric, or Kroos, Asensio, Bale, Isco, and Ronaldo. I think you essentially cover all your bases defensively, and a team with Bale, Asensio, Isco, and Ronaldo, that's not going to struggle to score the way we did against Barcelona.
Let's see. Yeah. I got a question here before we wrap this up from Christopher McCormick. Not at all related to Barca or Madrid or the Clasico. That's why I kind of want to bring it up. He's asking, do you include Iago Aspas in your World Cup squad? Top scoring Spaniard in 2017, scores nearly 20 goals a season since he's back. Hard to say no to those numbers. And seeing what he did as well over the weekend in the Galician derby, Celta Depor, of course, finishing 3-1. Celta playing an extremely attractive style of football. I'm very happy for Unzué. That he's managing to put his imprint there on the team and getting the best out of a player the likes of Iago. He's in top form. Hard to say no to those numbers. I agree.
I don't think you can leave him out, No, I mean, based on form. The thing is, like, the squad building thing is so interesting because you can do it month to month, and every month it's going to be different. Like, I'm not sure I would have included him 2 months ago where he just didn't look that good to me. And he was playing a bit too deep. He was playing most in midfield. And then Unzua started pushing him up higher, and he's looked phenomenal. He's looked actually not just good, he's looked fantastic, like, lately. I think it would be crazy not to include him. Like, I think I'm trying to, look back. 23-man squad is actually so hard to do. It's such a limited.
We talked about it before.
Like, if we're doing a normal national team, maybe it's not that difficult. The Spain national team is like 8 teams deep in every position. So 23 people is really hard. Last World Cup, Del Bosque took 4 strikers. So Pedro, Diego Costa, David Villa, Fernando Torres. Let's just say for the argument of squad building and what Lopetegui will do, if he takes 4 strikers, you
drop Torres and Costa.
Well, who are your for sure's right now? For sure is Morata.
Morata.
Is that the only for sure we have right now?
Well,
who else do we have?
Iago.
I mean, and then Aspas, and then you have to kind of pick between Aduriz, Diego Costa, and
I'm just so skeptical of how he will return. Apparently, Diego Costa is in the best shape he's ever been.
Yeah,
which he should be. He's had time.
Yeah,
but I'm very skeptical. I'm really anxious to see him out there because I hope, of course, that he'll be in tip-top shape for sure for the good of the league, for the good of the Spain squad. But I don't know, something in me that just it's not entirely certain that he will.
Yeah, I have no idea how that's going to work out. But hey, if he's in shape and if there's anyone who can get him to, be him, it's Simeone, right?
For sure.
So my guess is he'll get back to his best and he'll make it. And if he doesn't, he'll still make it. I just think he'll be there.
Interesting.
I still think it's crazy that we're not talking about Mariano, who has yet to be called up for the national team, and he doesn't want to play for the Dominican. He wants to play for Spain. He's lighting League One on fire. And, we're talking about informed Spanish strikers. He might be the most informed out of everybody, like even more informed than Morata. Or
how many does he have now?
What's that?
How many goals to his name?
Give me like 5 seconds and I'll tell you. But he's been really good. And I wonder how much he's on Lopetegui's radar right now.
Radar. Yeah. I mean, it's a question of not just perhaps picking the best players, but also making sure they fit into the squad, right? And the Spain team right now is gelling very well, so it's kind of you want to make sure that continues, right?
Mariano was 13 goals. So he's tied for the 3rd most in Liga. It's almost a goal per game. And the only 2 players who have more than him are Falcao, 15, Cavani, 19, who's been on fire. But he has more goals than Neymar. He has more goals than Mbappe.
That's a good one.
And I don't know if anyone saw him do this, but, he deserves a look, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Anything else?
Well,
I think.
Anything else just to wrap it up, I guess. Just the weekend, obviously, without going into detail, but for Barca, not only winning the Clasico, but having all of the top 5 teams losing has been just a formidable weekend for Barca. Unfortunately, not for La Liga, because I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I would say with Atletico 9 points away, Valencia 10, Madrid 14, can we call this Liga over? Is it a done deal?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I don't want to call it yet because I'm superstitious like that. So and I know that I said it yesterday on D Spot 4 months ago. It was drama. It was hell. It was dark. Everything was going to be bleak. Forward 4 months later, and we are in quote unquote proclaimed already Liga champions. So who knows what the next 4 months will bring. The wind can turn, or tides can turn very quickly like that. But right now things are looking good for Barca. It's unfortunate for La Liga, though. I'm always more partial to emotional finishes, and those kind of nail-biting photo finishes are a lot more fun, of course.
Something to look forward to
Champions League.
Well, the first match day back in La Liga after the New Year, Sevilla against Betis, the Seville derby. Should be fun.
Yeah. And the Copa del Rey, Barça Celta should be good.
Oh, I completely forgot. We get 2 legs of Celta Barça. That's guaranteed, Gong Show.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be fun. Okay, Diego. Well, regardless, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, and
likewise.
Hope you had a great 2017. I hope 2018 treats you well, my friend.
Likewise, buddy.
And enjoy stuffing your face for the next week.
Oily balls.
Oily balls.
I'm gonna send you a picture.
Yeah, send me a picture. I want to see it. Yeah. All right, Diego. Thanks as always.
Likewise to you, man. It's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to much more podcasts. Churros y Tácticas. Only you can say that the right way.
Churros y Tácticas. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks you, Diego, and see you in 2018.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.